Welcome to City Hall. We'll get started this morning with our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Jeffrey Goldsmith, the pastor at Emmanuel Tabernacle, is here. He'll lead us in the invocation. If you'd step to the microphone, and afterwards I'll ask Councilman Pete White to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
At this time, if you would be so kind to bow your heads with me for the invocation. Lord, we are acknowledging you in all of our ways and asking you to direct our path. God, we thank you for these men and women who by your divine providence have been selected to serve the citizens of this city. And we pray that they do not falter in carrying out the task entrusted them. We ask you to fill this chamber with your presence, infuse within them the wisdom to make the many difficult decisions with integrity, ingenuity, and responsibility. Give them understanding and tolerance to confront and resolve problems, crises, and challenges while achieving their goals. Rid them of any prejudice, bias, or special interest that can disrupt the greater good, and help them to conduct business in a moral, ethical, and kind-spirited way that the citizens of this city will regard them with pride today and remember them with love on tomorrow. Give them guidance to act justly and creatively, with good order and sound judgment being the order of the day. God, we pray for continuous peace and prosperity and growth in these challenging times, and that you will look down upon those less fortunate than we are in other parts of the country and the world. Lord, we ask that you bless this meeting, that by the end of the day, that they have made good use of the opportunities that they have been given for the benefit of those for whom we serve. Lord, we ask that you bless also that at the end of this day, that you will be able to say, well done, good and faithful servant. This is our prayer. In the matchless name of our Lord and Savior we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wait for the microphone to work. We are so pleased to be able this morning to honor a young man from Oklahoma City who has and continues to honor Oklahoma City with incredible feats on the athletic field. Gerald McCoy is a graduate of Southeast High School. He has done a wonderful job of playing football at the University of Oklahoma, and today is Gerald McCoy Day in Oklahoma City. Come on up, Gerald. Want to get your supporting cast. Kelly, come on up. Coach, Branch. Coach, come on up. Stand. Kelly, you come up and stand as part of the group here. We have a proclamation. I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Whereas Oklahoma City native Gerald McCoy prepped at Southeast High School, where he was coached by Michael Branch, it didn't take long for Coach Branch to see there was something special about this young man. Whereas Gerald notched 83 tackles, including 23 tackles for loss and 20 sacks, and was named All-Area, All-State, and All-Metro as a junior in 2004. During his senior year, Gerald logged 82 tackles, 20 sacks, and recovered 9 fumbles. Whereas as a senior, the honors Gerald received for his abilities on the football field include National Defensive Player of the Year by USA Today, 2005 Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year, All-City Athletic Conference Player of the Year, Best Defensive Lineman by Oklahoma Kickoff Magazine, All-State by the Oklahoman and Tulsa World, and Parade Magazine All-American. Whereas Gerald redshirted his first season at OU but came on strong in 2007 to be named Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, He finished the 2007 season with 9 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Whereas as a third-year sophomore in 2008, Gerald led all Oklahoma interior defensive linemen with 35 tackles and was second on the team with 6.5 quarterback sacks, including 2 sacks against Texas. And he helped the Sooners reach the 2009 BCS National Championship game, during which he had his first career interception. Whereas Gerald was named to the Big 12 first team and was an obvious candidate for the 2009 NFL Draft, he decided to return to Oklahoma for his junior season and went on to be ranked as the number 2 defensive tackle in college football in 2009 by Rivals.com. Gerald's expertise on the gridiron landed him on the finalist roster for the 2009 Lombardi Award, the only non-senior to make the list. Whereas Gerald McCoy is now poised for the future, the beginning of his NFL career is at hand. All his hard work doesn't stop here. It rises to the next level. And whereas we congratulate Gerald McCoy on his accomplishments and look forward to watching this young man's star rise. Now, therefore, Mick Cornett, the mayor of the city of Oklahoma City, does hereby proclaim March 30th, 2010 as Gerald McCoy Day in Oklahoma City.
Let's show our appreciation. And the Southeast High School Drum Corps is here. Well, that was terrific. And if anybody was having trouble staying awake in this morning's council meeting, we have resolved that issue. Gerald, congratulations. And I can't tell you how proud we are to have you have your hometown, Oklahoma City, be a part of your illustrious career, and we look forward to great things.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor Cornett, Council, Oklahoma City. Thank you, guys, for allowing me to have this day. It's a dream come true, and I love you guys. I won't disappoint. Thank you.
Mayor, he may have set the bar a little high for people to get a day named after him. I don't know. The drum corps was quite something.
Yeah.
Good job.
Guys. Next, we are saluting Litter Blitz 2010. Let's see, Lisa Sinar is here from Oklahoma City Beautiful. Lisa, come on up. Mother Earth is here, along with Terry Trashosaurus. Terry, come on up. Allison McCartney, Cindy Mason, Nikki Largent, come on up. It is that time of year when we draw attention to the beautification of Oklahoma City. We have a proclamation. I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Whereas litter is a critical factor in our city's economic health, and a clean city reduces taxpayers' costs to remove the litter and attract new businesses. Whereas Oklahoma City Beautiful and the City of Oklahoma City are teaming up for Litter Blitz 2010. Whereas Litter Blitz 2010 is an effort to clean up neighborhoods, parks, streets, and businesses to help beautify Oklahoma City. Whereas neighborhood, civic, church, business groups can register their team to pick up litter on a date they choose. And whereas each team will receive a packet with free trash bags, gloves, and tips for a safe and successful cleanup. Last year, over 7,000 volunteers participated in the community cleanup. Now, therefore, Mick Cornett, the mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2010 as Litter Blitz 2010 Days in Oklahoma City, and he urges all citizens to help combat litter, not only in their own neighborhoods, but throughout all areas of our city.
Let's show our appreciation to the beautification of Oklahoma City.
Thank you very much. My name is Cindy Mason. I'm chair of 2010 Litter Blitz. You know, we have really an amazing city. We also have something that helps us not have such a clean city sometimes, is the wind in Oklahoma City. Trash can fly, I think, from Kansas here and back again. So if you all have not signed up to be a part of Litter Blitz, please go to Oklahoma City Beautiful website, www.okcbeautiful.com, and sign up. We do furnish bags and gloves. Your group will be put on the website as somebody who has helped us with it. We're trying to get 10,000 volunteers this year. I think we're really on our way to doing that. And thank you so very much.
Let's show our appreciation. Thanks very much. Moving along on the council agenda, we're going to have a series of appointments here. We're going to have appointments to the Airport Trust, the City County Board of Health, the Historical Preservation Commission, and then we're going to meet the members of the new MAPS 3 Citizen Advisory Board. So let's take these in order. How about a motion on items 3A, B, and C? All right, cast your votes on those items, and those appointments pass unanimously. And for item D, I would like the members of the MAPS 3 Advisory Board to come forward. And Larry, Councilman McAtee, if you'll join the advisory board down there, I'll join them, and we'll continue this part of the session. Well, it is great to have you all down here this morning. I know most of you have probably not met each other. Many of you have not met members of staff, and we intend to take care of all of that very, very shortly because we have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate your support. Why don't, as I call your name, you come up here and join us, and we'll face the audience here. Councilman Larry McAtee will be representing the council on the MAPS 3 Advisory Board. Dee Morales called in. She was not feeling well today and was not able to make it. Tom McDaniel will serve as the chairman of the MAPS 3 Advisory Board. Susan Hooper, if you'll stand next to Tom. Michael Dover. Kimberly Lowe. Zane Boatwright. Michael Adams. Nathaniel Harding. Wayne Williams. And Rusty LaForge. How about we show our appreciation to these citizens who have this group has offered up a tremendous amount of time going forward to help us, the citizens of Oklahoma City, to deal with some complex issues over the next few months. We'll be ramping up the information stream and getting these people on board very, very quickly. But I did want the opportunity for the citizens of Oklahoma City to see these people. This MAPS 3 election was extremely high profile, but one that we think will continue to recreate Oklahoma City and continue the renaissance going forward. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate each of yours willingness to serve and the willingness to roll up your sleeves and get after this and help us look after this taxpayer money. So thank you very much. Chairman McDaniel is already convening the group out in the lobby for their first meeting. He didn't give them much time to get settled. Okay, we have a motion to approve the MAPS Citizen Advisory Board. Do I have a second? Yes. All right, cast your votes, and it passed unanimously. Thank you all. We're on to item 4. This is the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item 4A is to receive the Journal of Council Proceedings for March 23rd. Item 4B is to approve the Journal of Council Proceedings for March 16th. All right, we have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 5 is a request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, there's a couple this morning. Starting with the consent docket on page 6. On item 6S on page 6, that's a number of easements, and we need to strike just easements numbered 9 and 10. So there's a number of easements. We'll bring them back, but they need to be modified. So we're going to strike easement numbers 9 and 10 on item 6S. And then on page 10, under item 8F1, B, 1901 Peach Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has removed. Item H, 331 Northeast 14th, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has repaired. Item 8, G1, I, 1315 Northwest 12th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item K, 212 Southeast 25th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item L, 220 Southeast 25th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And item N, 301 Northwest 82nd Street. We ask that that be stricken. We need to rework that for additional violations.
All right. Any other requests for uncontested continuances? We'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. There are 4 items. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. We'll adjourn OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. There are 2 items. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the PPA?
Your Honor,
Yeah.
excuse me, I have a question. On PPA A, and this is has to do with addendum number 5, which reads, this addendum outlines the creation of a new community development function within the Downtown Oklahoma City, Inc., and assists that effort with $25,000 of city funds, be matched by an equal amount of BID funds for this first half year of service. And I really want to commend the Downtown Oklahoma City, Inc. on the great job they've done. And perhaps this has been explained to me before and I've just forgotten it, but I wonder if we could get a brief written explanation of what this particular new function will attempt to do and some of the things we might expect to see from its implementation after a year or so.
We'd be happy to do that. I'll get you back information
Thanks.
on it.
And I'd say I apologize if it was explained to me before and I've forgotten it.
Ready to vote on the PPA? Ready to vote on the PPA? Do we have a motion? And a second? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. We'll adjourn OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. There is one item.
Move the item.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on EAT.
Your Honor, I'd ask one question again, please. In this, in the final paragraph of this first page, the bid price we've got now is 27% lower than our existing price. And I just seemed like that was sort of a red flag. Why are we getting such a great bargain? I know that's, I'm not complaining about the bargain, but I think I want to make sure that we've investigated this to the extent we're comfortable that we're getting a quality product.
I think that in some areas where we're supplying vendors, the economy's down a little bit, and they've cut some costs to try to fill their gaps to make sure they get the bid.
Well, 27% is a pretty substantial cut.
I understand
It caught
that.
my attention, and it just makes me wonder if we maybe paid too much the first time. But,
Marcia, do you have any further information on that item?
I'm sorry, City Manager, I didn't hear your response, but fundamentally the carts are made of plastic, and the cost of plastic has gone down that much in speculative future cost. The last time we bid, prices were escalating, and bid prices went up dramatically. This is, though, back to a 2003 price for the carts.
do we have any feeling for what the price is going to be in the future? Have we seen any trends? If this is a great price, maybe we ought to buy more. It's just...
It is a great price. The solid waste manager is thinking about that. Storage becomes an issue because they're so bulky, even though they do stack. So we are thinking about those things right now. Hard to know. Hard to know what the future holds. Depends a lot on oil prices.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're ready to vote on EAT. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Adjourn OCEAT, reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, is there any individual consideration?
I've got a question on AD, Your Honor.
AD?
Alpha Dog.
Okay.
You.
You? All right, Pat, you want to go ahead and get started with AD?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an item that provides for the installation of a new public works of art in Bicentennial Park, being funded by ultimately by the Inasmuch Foundation through the Leadership Oklahoma City, Inc. And it's a $350,000 work of art entitled Compass Rose. I was wondering if there's been an artist's drawing or something we could look at, see what it will be in the final.
Actually, I believe there's a model of it in the downstairs atrium on the second floor.
Good, thank you.
Take a look at outside the city clerk's office. I guess they're walking Gerald out of his car.
May I approach the bench?
Yes, you may.
And again, there is a model of it downstairs in the atrium.
Yeah. Pete, item U.
This item, I just want to bring this to everybody's attention. This is an application for a grant that I've been involved in, and Francis has been very active in it, the city clerk. It came about as a result of a conversation that I had with the city clerk some months ago, or probably a year ago now, about what a wonderful space we have downstairs on the second floor that seems to be unused, or certainly not used to its maximum benefit. And we started trying to figure out things we might do of an historical nature, display things we might be able to put in there. And this is kind of the culmination of that. I think everyone's going to be really impressed with the project itself. going to try to do something to highlight the historical aspects of most of the city departments: fire, police, public works, parks. What we discovered in this process was that most of the city departments have kind of internal historians, whether they're named that or not. There's been someone with a pack rat tendency, perhaps, that's accumulated all kinds of historical artifacts and that ought to be displayed in a better way than we're doing it now. And so this is the first step toward trying to utilize that space down there on the second floor. And I think it's I'm having been involved in it since the inception and watching it move forward. I think it's something we're all going to be very proud of when we get finished, because it's going to give us an opportunity to look at some things about Oklahoma City that most of us. Well, I'm old as I am, I probably saw most of them, but some of the rest of you younger folks probably hadn't seen all those things before. So, anyway, I just want to call to everybody's attention and kind of keep keep it on the radar screen, because it's going to be a really nice project, I think, at a very small cost to the city, by the way, with matching funds and.
I think institutional memory is really important. And sometimes we don't do as good a job as we should bring those things to the forefront. It may help us repeat mistakes that have been made in the past. So I think it's important.
Right. Most of these, these little walking tour things that you see, little maps of downtown Oklahoma City, City Hall is always on those lists. And there are so many things inside this building that are of historical significance, not the least of which is this room itself and the Art Deco chandeliers. They're not. There's no other place I know of that's finished out like this building is, and so I think it's going to actually put Oklahoma City Hall much more as a destination for people that are doing walking tours of downtown Oklahoma City. Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah, no, it actually just brought up a question I had. I asked someone. I don't know if I ever got a response or followed up, but. Do we have any digital storage of the pictures that you see around, pictures in the conference room of, different places in the early 1900s? Are those digitally stored anywhere where we can make some kind of a digital, say a CD or a DVD, available to the public if they wanted a copy of those types of pictures? Do we have anything like that?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out and get back to you.
Okay. And also maybe if we don't, what the cost or...
The pictures, you're talking about the photographs?
Yes.
Most of those photographs were acquired from the Historical Society, and they're in their archives, and they're digitally stored at the Historical Society. They're not really our property. Some of the things that we're talking about putting downstairs, though, are different than that. They are not property of the Historical Society. In conjunction with I'm involved in another organization called Retro Metro, which is kind of a Save the History of Oklahoma City for the last 50, 60 years organization. It's just kind of just getting started. One of the things it's doing is trying to go back into all these places and discover those photographs and save them. There are photographs in businesses in Oklahoma City that are not stored anywhere. Some of that we found some in the Boulevard cafeteria, photographs of the old Boulevard taken 60 years ago. So there's a big effort underway right now to try to really preserve all that stuff digitally. But these photographs here in the City Hall are the proper, the copyright or whatever is probably owned by the Historical Society. I think we bought them from the Historical Society.
Yeah, just to follow on, there's a major archive there, Brian, and they have a curator that can identify, by location or by era, all sorts of things. They've got great.
I guess my thought was anybody who is interested, that may be a lot of hassle for them, but if it was more easily available, they may be willing to pay $10 or $12 for a DVD of photographs of the city.
At this point, this Retro Metro organization, which is really involved in storing all these photographs in Oklahoma City, doesn't have any short-term plans to sell it. But the images are online now for the most part. I can get you the link, and you could probably download them and print them yourself without.
Mayor, I'm also working with Retro Metro on the city's documents, and we are trying to scan them and make them digitized where they will be available for all the citizens to look at. And that's why we encourage that there not be a charge. So they're on a website where they can be shared with everybody. So we are looking into that. They're very interested in the city ordinances and getting a lot of the city ordinances from back in, the 1890s out on the website for people to look at.
There is just an absolute treasure trove of that kind of material, especially in the fire department. I know Gary probably is aware of that in the fire department, but most of the other departments have similar collections, not nearly as extensive as the fire collection is, but similar. And they just really tell a story of Oklahoma City. We're also, the next step of this project that we're talking about here under item U is to try to find a way to permanently display some of this material in city-owned buildings so the public will have an opportunity to see them other than just by coming to City Hall. We thought about the Will Rogers, the facility at the Will Rogers Park. We've thought about the new fire station in Bricktown, since it's going to be kind of a throwback design and so forth. But it's just something we need to do. If we don't save it now, it won't be here to be saved 10, 15 years from now.
That's right. I agree. I'm glad that work's going on in process. We ready to vote on the consent docket? Also want to thank Leadership Oklahoma City for their work on the artwork, the Compass Rose, and look forward to seeing that in completion. And want to thank the Inasmuch Foundation, too, for their generous matching grant in that foundation. Ready to vote? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Nothing on the concurrence docket today, so we're on to item 8. This begins a series of votes series of items that requires a separate vote. We start with zoning cases. First is in Ward 8. The address is 2700 Northwest 178th Street. It's currently AA agricultural, and if approved, it would become R1 single-family residential district and a PUD. Pat?
Thank you, Your Honor. Did we have anybody sign up on this one? There were no protests at the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended it. The owner's representative here, if any of the members of the council have questions, basically what we're proposing is a C3 area up front that'll be a nursery, plants, garden shop kind of thing. It's an area that's developing rapidly, and I think this will provide a valuable service to our citizens out there. And since we've had no objections at any level, I would move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8A1. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 8A2 is a zoning case in Ward 7. The address is 2559 Southeast Grand Boulevard. It's currently R1 single-family residential, and it would become a PUD. Skip?
Although I haven't received any calls from anyone, I would like for someone from staff to give me a little bit of background as it relates to this. It seems kind of unusual, but I understand it is a racetrack.
Yeah, the applicant's here. He can probably better describe what they're proposing, but it's an agreement. You want to?
Yes.
Morning, Council. My name is Don Navarre with Derryberry and Mayfie. We represent the Oklahoma BMX Racetrack Parents Association. This was a BMX track, which is not a motorized track. It's BMX bicycles. And this was originally under a lease arrangement with the city over on Western and the river. And when that area was improved, the city entered into a new lease agreement with this organization for the lease of the property for which this PUD was established. The city required us to actually, even though we have a lease that sets forth all the terms and conditions of the use, they did require us to put in a PUD as to any improvements, screening of toilets, things like that, and that's what we've done. We've worked with the city, and as far as I know, there never was any objections to this, and the Parents Association is a nonprofit organization, has had this relationship with the city for a number of years.
This was a relocation based on the interstate.
Don, is this going to where the old track was? There's an old BMX facility or some kind of bike facility there on Trosper. Been there for years. Is this going in the same spot?
I think that's correct. I think there was some use, but it's been a number of years.
It's been a long time.
And they are going to improve it and
but not in any significantly material way.
Yes, sir. It is in the same location.
Same location. I'm personally glad to see this kind of use go back into Trosper. I mean, for too long it's been used for other things. And
I will say on behalf of the members of the association, these are all pretty much hardworking men and women. They really appreciate the city providing this alternate space. This has been a hard thing for them.
I think you're going to like the space better, or they are. It's a much more, it's just a better space. Where they were before is kind of an industrial. This is a very park setting, a very nice, very, very underdeveloped park. The city owns a lot of property there in that area, and I'm personally glad to see it coming back there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Skip, you want to make a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All right. We're voting on item 8A2. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 8A3 is a zoning case in Ward 1. The address is 10701 Northwest 23rd Street. It's going to become one PUD to another. Gary?
Thank you, Mayor. We have anybody signed up on this one at all? Bob, have all the things on the TE been agreed to? Okay. This is going into it was a tree farm going into a storage, self-storage, and so forth. Planning Commission approved it. I'm going to make a motion on it. I'm also going to ask for the emergency. I'll tell you why. That this was an old tree farm, and they're donating some of the trees to Oklahoma City Beautiful, and we have a planning issue with the time of year. So the quicker they can get on that, the better. So,
all right.
Motion on the item
first.
Second.
All right. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously.
Motion on the emergency.
Second.
Cast your votes on the emergency. Passed unanimously. We're on to item 8B. This is some housekeeping from Development Services. Any comments or questions or a motion? All right. Cast your votes on 8B. Passed unanimously. Item 8C, there's been some changes in state law, and we need to bring an ordinance in to get in compliance. This is we'll be collecting a fee for the state. All right. Cast your votes on 8C. Passed unanimously. Item 8D, I understand we have a presentation from Wendell Wisenhunt.
Good morning. I'm here today to bring before you an introduction of some changes in park ordinances. From time to time, of course, we review our ordinances to see if they need to be changed, deleted, left alone. There are several areas that we found justified changes taking place and have recommended those to you. We have recommended that the admissions at the Family Aquatic Centers, Will Rogers, and Early Wine, where we have a total attendance each year of almost 80,000, to move from $5 to $6. That keeps us very competitive with the only other significant Family Aquatic Center in the metro, that would be in Edmond, where they are now charging $7, so we'll still be $1 less than Edmonds Pelican Bay. We have a number of event centers, 4 of those, one in South Lakes Park, Wiley Post, Woodson, and Will Rogers, where we issue about 634 permits each year for the rental of those facilities. We've projected changes, raises in the rates to rent those. We have 11 pavilions, think of them as picnic pavilions, where we've also recommended a cost increase, where we where we issue about 573 permits per year. We've also recommended a new ordinance that would allow us to offer some coordination and control of outdoor fitness camps that are being held throughout the city. We want to encourage those, but we do need some ability to control them. So we've included a $50 per location per month fee for those. As I speak to directors around the nation, I'm finding that more and more of these fitness camps, often called boot camps, are taking place throughout park system. And in most cases, I'm finding that they're totally unregulated and are problematic in many cities. We're beginning to have so many of them, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, that we're having some regulation problems as well, such problems as a boot camp locating in a parking lot and then folks calling us saying, I was unable to park because there was a boot camp in the parking lot. So this permit requirement will allow us to regulate that so that we can predict where they're taking place and keep the boot camps from interfering with an already planned activity or use of a facility. We've also included a recommendation of a fee for ticket sales and concessions at concerts. Occasionally we have a large concert in a park. It's almost always by a professional promoter, and we have no way of charging the promoter now adequately so that the city's interests are represented. So we've recommended a fee on the sale of tickets. We've also recommended the deletion of a couple of fees related to the rental of benches and trash cans. Those are requests we just don't have, so we've deleted those. And that pretty much covers it. This is for introduction, and I'd like to try to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, Sam?
Mayor, I think a lot of these changes with regards to our shelter and use of facilities makes sense. I'm concerned this summer in particular with regards to the aquatic centers. And Wendell, I'm not concerned about keeping even or $1 behind Edmond. I'm concerned with the fact that, we're looking at closing some swimming pools this summer. Budgets are down. People's income is down. I don't think this is the year to be putting a bump, even a buck, on these aquatic fee entries. This is not just adults. Every individual that comes in that's not on a family membership is a $6 fee. I just don't think it's the time to do it. And I'd like to suggest that we wait a year on this.
Well, are we thinking that this will increase revenue and allow us to keep other pools open?
The revenue projection from these increases is approximately $60,000. So, yes, sir, those $60,000 would be factored into my budget proposal.
Yeah. So, we might have to close something else.
I think we're going to be looking at some pool closings, Mayor.
Well, but this is $60,000 we won't have. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in Wendell's budget. Wendell, are you projecting the same number or an increased number this year with the price increase?
Actually, we're projecting the same number. We don't believe that this will cause a decrease in attendance. I might also mention that we did not raise the season pass fee, which we sell a large number of, and we didn't change the family fee, which was instituted at council's suggestion last year, I believe. So one can still purchase those discount fees if one wishes. Yes, sir.
Do we think those two pools will generate $60,000? Is that what we're saying?
No, sir. All of these.
All together it generates $60,000?
Yes, sir.
That's the increase.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the increased amount by that $1.
That is the increased amount, yes, sir.
Fee.
How do these increases, how do the fees we collect on these services, Wendell, compare to the costs of providing these services?
Okay. I don't have the exact figure, but I can
I
tell
don't
you.
exact figure. Are we close to recovering our costs? Are we recovering more than our costs to generate additional revenue? Are we still receiving less than our costs?
We did, yes, sir. We did base our fee increase suggestions on our costs. So our intention is to meet our expenditures with the income from the rentals. And these fees would do that, sir.
With less pools this summer, we should expect, Wendell, greater participation as well, numbers at these two pools. I just think the timing is not good, and to look at in terms of an income generating opportunity. Yes, if we weren't going to be looking at closing some pools, but I'm afraid we are, and I just think it's not.
Well, we're just introducing it today. I'll remind you. Yeah, Brian.
I would like to point out, though, at Early Wine, we have made a big investment out there of improvements. Wendell, what exactly have we done out there?
Well, the most recent improvement that you've seen being built out there now is just over $1 million, and it is a new slide that was funded in the recent bond issue. And we are not projecting an increase. We're making our suggestion of fee increase based on a a current level of attendance, but we may see some increase as a result of that.
The point I was getting at, though, Sam, is that they're not paying $6 for what they got last year. They're paying $1 more this year, and they're getting more this year. So,
but Brian, they paid for that. They, being the taxpayers.
Well, yeah, but if we're going to use that logic, then we should let everybody in for free. So we do charge a fee, but they are getting more for that $1. They're not just getting a bump in fee. They are getting more use for that fee.
I'm more interested in how much money is generated from this dollar. The way this reads, it says if we do all these things, it generates $60,000.
Yes, sir.
How much of that $60,000 is generated by the dollar?
Yes, sir. 24,882 is our projection.
For those two facilities?
Yes, sir.
So, good chunk of it then, close to half of it.
Larry?
Wendell, I didn't read in here. Has this idea been gone through the Parks Commission?
We do talk with the Park Commission about fee increases that we have. We've had considerable discussions with them recently about the concerns that we've had about the boot camps as a matter. Yes, sir.
And those discussions led to a supportive...
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Remember, this item is just being introduced today. We're not really voting on it. Yes.
Just one point of clarification. We have a number of pools in the system and different levels of pools, and just want to make sure we're clear on this. The Early Wine and I think Woodson actually generates a little bit of, they're more profitable, if you will.
But Will Rogers.
Last year, City Manager, both Woodson and Northeast were free pools. There's no projection of changing those fees.
Oh, you're right. So, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. You're correct.
And Will Rogers and Early Wine were pay-for pools.
Yeah, Larry?
Wendell, are you in a position to talk about Woodson yet or not?
Well, I can say that we're working with a group of folks who may help us with funding for Woodson Pool, and we're certainly hoping that comes to fruition. We're obviously very interested in any help that we can obtain from private industry or private sources for upcoming swim season because, as has been mentioned, we're having a hard time finding a way in the new year to fund all the pools.
And if that were to bear fruition, then the plan would be to open Woodson free of charge.
Yes, sir, it would be free.
Which is a nice amenity.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, Brian?
Wendell, could you talk about the boot camp fee and permit process a little bit?
Okay. We have several concerns about it. As I'd mentioned before, we've had some surprises with boot camp organizations. And by the way, typically those are independent contractors who either run a gym here in town and want to have an outstationed outdoor fitness camp operated out of their gym, or it might just be an individual contractor, individual person who is a qualified trainer, physical trainer who holds those camps. We've had some concerns about it, as I'd mentioned, not having a permit required. We just have folks showing up, and sometimes they interfere with ongoing or scheduled activity. We've also had a concern, and this has certainly been a concern of my department because we're one of the departments that has to pick up signs, with signs being placed by these companies, and one of the requirements of this permit will be, pardon me if this is cutting out, it seems it may be, but one of the requirements of this permit, to obtain this permit, will be an agreement on the part of the permittee that he will not place signs.
What is the fee and the term, and what is that part of it, though?
It's $50 per site per month. And there might be 3 requests for a site in one park, and if we can accommodate it, we will. Many of these happen quite early in the morning and often interrupt nothing.
Skip? What is the penalty if an individual does not pay the fee? What's to stop someone from just being there at the park early in the morning with 10 people and they all just exercising on park ground?
There's nothing to keep an individual group of folks from going to a park, and we'd encourage that, of course, for exercise of any nature. But if commerce, if a private business is being conducted on a park it's always been the department's stance and the stance of the park board that there should be a fee paid to the city. If a company begins to operate a boot camp on a park and does not have a permit, my staff or the police department or code enforcement can require that person to either obtain a permit or cease the operation of the boot camp.
Any other comments or questions on this item that's being introduced today?
Yeah, I have one more.
All right.
And that is about the swimming pools. Councilman Bowman and myself and Wendell, we have been meeting with some other nonprofit agencies, specifically the Y, the United Way, Food Bank, and it's interesting to see that in reference to these programs as they relate directly to children, especially for the summer, that we have, I think, people in the community that is sensitive and have a passion for children also in reference to activities for the summer. I just find it kind of interesting that as a city that we are always looking at this every summer in reference to whether or not you're going to cut out activities for the children. And I would just like to say that either we need to be really serious about this aquatic program. It's obvious that you have two family aquatic programs that, for the most part, sustain themselves
Yes, sir.
on the admission fees. There was a study done years ago that recommended that we should have full family aquatic centers in various parts of the city. I realize that the budget is such that, and as we go forward, it may get worse in reference to trying to sustain, the number of swimming pools in every community. And I think those days are probably gone. But at the same time, I think that the family full aquatic centers have a very, very need in various parts of the city. And so if you have one in the south, you have a Northeast Family Aquatic Center, and you have a Family Aquatic Center in the Northwest, I think you pretty much can take care of this issue of aquatic activities for the summer and give the children some place to go without us having to every summer try to figure out who is going to help us provide water activities for the children. And I just have a very serious passion for this, and I just think that these are the one people in our population that don't get a voice. They don't get to come down here and advocate about the issue of what are we going to do for the summer. And they pay taxes too. For every bubble gum, for every soda pop, for every pack of potato chips and everything else that a kid buys in a store, that's a revenue that is also counted for supporting everything else. And I just would like, as we go forward, to get serious about this issue. If it comes down to just saying, look, we're going to close all these other pools, but we're going to have a full family aquatic center in each geographical area of the city, at least there where the population supports it, and you have the numbers there. And then, we can probably get away from this every summer, having to debate on which pool we're going to close and which one should be free, which one should we charge more for. I just think this is, something we need to look at serious, as we go forth in the future, so we don't have to do this anymore. But I understand the issue in reference to the dollar. I know Councilman Bowman and I have been working very diligently trying to resolve this matter for this coming summer. But in some respects, Councilman, I think that where we're begging for one or two pools to remain open and for the cost to not be prohibitive against those individuals, that we may have to assume this proposal that's being submitted by Wendell. And Wendell, I thank you, because I know this is, you get the brunt of this, but I realize that you don't write the check, you don't count the money, other than, I know you count the the attendance and everything. But, you know, I think this is just a global issue that we need to consume in reference to providing for our children.
Any other comments or questions before we vote on item 8D? All right. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Also, the clerk noted to me that we did not pass or vote on the emergency for item 8C. So if we could back up one item to the fee that we're collecting on behalf of the state and vote on the emergency for 8C. All right. Cast your votes on 8C's emergency, and it passes unanimously. That puts us down to item 8E, where we're going to be issuing some gold bonds. Any comments or questions on this item? All right. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8F is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under any item listed under 8F? Has anyone signed up, Francis? All right. Looks like we're ready to go. Yes?
Charles, on 8G.
Huh? We're not to 8G yet.
Oh.
We're on 8F. Oh, okay. 8F1G. Okay, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
All right, and we have someone who's walked to the microphone.
Yes.
On this property?
Yes, this is concerning 30.
They're on Westminster. They're F1E.
Okay. We will need your name and address for the record.
Okay, Lavanya Fletcher.
All right.
1926 Heritage Park Drive, Oklahoma City, 73120.
Okay, this property is in Ward 7.
Yes.
Skip, do you want to help her? What's the issue with the property here?
The issue is the dilapidated structure of an old church building. My dad used to pastor years ago. He passed away, and it's a large piece of property. So we've been having a lot of citations, and it's very costly. And my appeal is to get more time than 30 days. We had one house at 90909 Northeast 36, which also belongs to the church, that we didn't really have enough time, and I had Skip looking into it, and they took the building down, and it slapped us with a $3,000 bill, which makes more financial hardship. And my appeal is to have more than 30 days. I'm having problems with obtaining a demolition permit because of asbestos inspection that's needed. And I started the permit last year, and because of finances, we had to kind of put it off. So it's now, again, we're being cited for it. So it's urgent that we get the permit, but we're having problems doing that. I did hire an inspector, and he said it's going to take about 10 days to get the final results. So my appeal is basically so that what happened with the 36 side don't happen again, and it put more of a financial hardship on the family.
Well, is it so you're planning to demolish the project?
Yes, we were going to demolition the property. We also were trying to get it developed, and my nephew is working on trying to get funding to develop the property.
Charles, how much time do you
Well,
need?
she'll start the process. We've already spoken with her previous to this, and we'll work with her on time. She needs to start a process. She can't drag it on for a year like it's kind of been doing now. It's a dangerous piece of property. So if we leave it on, we'll commit to working with her, but she will have to start the process.
Well, I guess I've heard that before. What is starting the process? I mean, if a house needs to be torn down, a demolition, or did they come out and they just tear it down?
She'll start to get her permit. We've given her some names of some contractors that can help her with her asbestos removal problem, things like that. She'll start that. We're more than happy to work with her and let her remove the property.
So if you'll just coordinate with Mr. Locke's office, he's willing to work with you.
And can I say that I have started the process? I mean, I've had an inspector out there. We have to wait for the results to be able to move forward with the DEQ because they're requiring that it be inspected. We don't know that it's asbestos out there, and from what he stated, it doesn't look like it's really any out there, but we still have to go through this process. And I do have a contractor standing by to.
Let me see if we can clarify this and put some closure to it. We're going to work with you.
Okay.
I think the gap comes when the issue of saying that if you start the process, I find that sometimes you say you start the process, but Mr. Locke has no knowledge of the process being started. So maybe if the people that you're contracting with, if they would contact directly to Mr. Locke's office, then we don't have this here. You're saying that you started the process and they don't know anything about.
Well, I have the paperwork showing. I'm sorry.
Just have the contractors to contact Mr. Locke's office.
I can do that.
Okay.
And I also have the paperwork where I did start the process of trying to get the demo permit. I have that paperwork.
Okay. Well, I think if it goes directly to his office,
Right.
then we can probably end some of the confusion.
The final thing is I just need more time. I'm not trying to drag it out a year. We're not trying to do that. I need more than 30 days because it's a large piece of property.
Okay,
If you start on it, you won't have to come back down here again, but stay in
Okay.
touch with him and let him know your
I
progress.
definitely will do that.
You should be fine if you're working with Charles.
Okay.
All right? Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other item on 8F someone would like to discuss? All right. Skip, you want to make a motion on these?
There is a property in Ward 6.
Calls for you.
Skip's been helping me out all week. He's taken a couple calls on my behalf. Can you talk to me, Charles, a little bit about 2328 Northwest First Terrace?
G.
That's F1G.
You see the picture there?
Yeah, and Skip, what do you know about this piece of property?
Well, the owner contacted me a couple of times, and I forwarded to Debbie to forward to Meg and you. He explained to me that he has a person that is going to buy the property, but he had installed windows and doors, and someone removed him from the and so he would just like to have a reasonable amount of time. The person, I think, is giving him a contract to purchase it, and they have plans to do something with it, other than leaving it like that.
Okay, we'll make note of that. If they'll contact us, the new owner.
Yes,
that's
and
fine.
I'll have the present owner to also. Sure. I think that information just didn't get to you yesterday.
It looks like a pretty dangerous piece of property, though, in its current state.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them do, Mayor.
The new owner has already contacted us. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
How about a motion on 8F? Skip, you want to make a motion?
Yes. Did we say E?
No, just all of them. 8F.
Yes.
All right. Second. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8G is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under any item listed under 8G? All right. Looks like we're good to go. How about a motion? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8H is a revocable right-of-way permit. This is for the Paseo Arts Festival that will be taking place in May. Sam, I know you've been working on this diligently.
I think the chairman of the Paseo Arts Association, Karen Orr, is going to briefly tell us how we've worked through this.
We will need your name and address for the record.
Karen Orr. I'm at 5112 Brook Hollow Drive, Oklahoma City. I'm president of the Paseo Arts Association. And it's time for our revocable permit again for our 34th annual Arts Festival, which will be held May 29th, 30th, and 31st this year. There is one correction on the map that you have been giving. We were excluding a couple of areas around Kathy Jacobson and her son's business. Her son's business is labeled as 3304 on the map, and it should read 3004. I think that was just a typo on there. But we've reached an agreement with those property owners, and the boundaries that you see are acceptable to both parties, and I think we can just pull off a successful festival as always. We're going to have expanded children's services this year, and hopefully it'll be bigger and better than ever. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions about the event?
Just a comment, Mayor. In working with Kathy Jacobson and our legal staff over the last 6 months, not only do we have an outside sellers ordinance coming back to the council citywide, but we'll have bearing on this as well. But as we looked at that and looked at this revocable permit this year, I think both ordinances are going to help us tighten up things with respect to the revocable permit as well as outside sellers. In terms of safety, the revocable permit for Paseo this year is going to just ensure through a tighter site plan, adherence to a site plan and specifics in that site plan, the safety kind of provisions that we're concerned about for the revocable permit as well as any adjacent properties when we get to outside sellers. I think this year, Karen, for the first time, we're going to prohibit parking on the south side of Northwest 30th.
Yes.
Which is the northern boundary. And that's been of concern, not just this year, but in past years with the neighborhood. So this has really caused us to look more closely at doing a really good job, better job with regard to safety and traffic. And I want to thank Karen and her overtures, too, with Kathy Jacobson. The cooperation has been very good of late. Dennis Box, although representing the Paseo Arts Association, has really been a go-to guy between both sides. And Dennis Box, appreciate that work very much. I think we're much further ahead because of that. And I'm just delighted to see we're at this point today. So
we've also, just as a matter, in addition to prohibiting the parking on the south side of Northwest 30th between Lee and Walker, we've also worked out something with First Christian Church on Northwest 36th and Walker, and we're going to use part of their parking and run a shuttle bus kind of going back and forth. So that will alleviate some of the parking as well. So.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, you'll make a motion, Sam?
Like to. Move for approval.
All right, cast your votes. Permit is issued. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council members.
We're on item 8I. I understand we do need executive session on this matter.
Yes, sir.
All right, cast your votes. It's moved. And item 8J, I understand we do need executive session.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cast your votes. And item 8K, I understand we do need executive session.
Yes.
All right, cast your votes. And it's moved to executive session. Item 8L is claims recommended for denial. There's one item. Is anyone here wishing to speak on this item? All right, how about a motion then? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 9 is claims recommended for approval. Cast your votes. Item is approved. Item 10, we're going to have a presentation from Russell. Okay. Is that not where we are?
That's not Russell. Russell's on this one.
Oh, okay. One ahead. Councilman Ryan, you had an item for council on item 10A.
Thank you, Ron. I was getting worried there. You were going. My earlier questions got me in trouble. At any rate, this is an item I'd like to suggest for approval. It's a resolution that changes the process the City Council uses in looking at amendments to the City Code. We currently set it for hearing at one meeting, and then the following meeting or 2 weeks later we have a combined public hearing and vote on the issue. And to me, I'm concerned that this might leave an impression with some of the people who make comments at that public hearing that due to the short time frame, almost zero, between the time they make their comments and the time we vote, that their comments are not given adequate consideration. This doesn't change anything we do, except it makes the process a three-step process instead of a two-step process. One, we would have a presentation by the appropriate staff member as to why we want to make this change, what went into the rationale to produce the change. The second session would be a public hearing where the public would have an opportunity to comment on the changes, and the council then could ask questions and have some discussion on it. And the third would be a final hearing where the council would have an opportunity to vote and either adopt or turn down this. Like I say, it's not a significant change, but it does inject an additional step that I think is important in giving the public some confidence that their opinions are given adequate consideration in our deliberation.
Would this add a week to the overall process?
It would add a week. Now, the only exception to that, Sam, would be during our summer schedule when we meet every other week. And it would slow it down to a 2-week delay. And I had some discussion with the city manager about that, and it is a problem. But I think there's seldom, in my experience on the council, have we had an amendment that needed instant change. And so I think this additional week that we might suffer during the summer sessions is an acceptable trade-off for the opportunity for our citizens to make meaningful comment. So I would move the resolution.
Are you getting a lot of complaints that people aren't having opportunities to
It's a
voice
perception
an
of my
opinion?
own, Your Honor. I've not had complaints about it. I've seen out here, though, people make comments, and within the next minute or two, we vote on the issue. And I don't think that sets the proper tone for the public coming here and make comments. If they can feel, and whenever it happens, that their opinions are not given full consideration by the council.
It just seems to me that to be more bureaucratic and extending the timeline of what we do. And
why 1 week?
Yeah.
And
it's extending everything we do by 1 week.
And well, not everything we do, just this particular item. And I think that's a legitimate trade-off for encouraging the public to come in and make comments, affected members of the public, trade institutions, commercial developers, whoever is impacted by this thing. And I think it's worthwhile.
Mayor, for instance, on this morning's agenda, not that this is going to impact this because it's after the fact, but the ordinance that Wendell brought forward on revision to park fees, that would have a follow-up, that kind of ordinance revision, Jim, as well, would have a follow-up public hearing.
Mayor, perhaps just also a comment. In the couple of instances recently where we've had a lot of citizen input that would have been addressed in this second step, we have opted at the council level to defer the issue for another week or two for further discussion. So in reality, we have taken that extra week or two to address
I can't
public
tell if you're
comment.
speaking in for this motion or against it.
I actually am speaking for this motion
Okay.
because I think in practical terms, we're doing this
Well, it sounds to
already.
me like we already have a system. When we need it, we can defer it a week. And if we don't need it, we don't need to defer it a week.
And in a sense, we do, but I think Councilman Ryan's comments that the perception of the public that they don't have an opportunity for much input is pretty valuable. So I would be in favor of this change.
Okay. Any other comments or questions today? We're not voting on it today, are we?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
This we are. Okay. Yeah, don't we need to defer this a week? We haven't had the public's opportunity to come in and talk about this.
That's your introduction? You're already violating your own.
Apparently so.
Mayor, I would just like to get on the record to being supportive of it.
Okay.
One point is that this would only apply to ordinances amending the city code. It would not apply, say, to a zoning redistricting ordinance. So you wouldn't have to defer those.
To the extent that that exception makes sense is that the zoning applications for change are vetted by the Planning Commission in advance. So there's an opportunity for the public to make comments at that point in time. So,
Well, Kenny, which items on today's agenda would this meet the requirements?
On the items for individual separate votes, B, C, D. I think that's it. Let's see. E is that's the issuance of the bonds.
It's not amending the code.
Right. It's not amending of the code, so it wouldn't apply to that.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions on this item? Am I the lone voice of dissent? Okay. Yeah.
I would move the resolution, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Cast your votes, and it passes predictably by a count of 8-1. All right. We're on to item 11, city manager. Well, we have items from council to go around. Gary? You want to keep it going? Sam?
Quickly, Mayor, the OU School of Architecture has offered an unofficial an academic opportunity for its students, third-year students, architecture students at OU, to do some design work, project design work for health and wellness centers that we might take a look at. And I stepped into their first project meeting. They're using a storefront building over in the Plaza Courts but on Walker and 10th Street. 9 groups of students with 9 projects, and really with the student academic-driven project, they're looking at models all over the country. So we're going to get a lot of excitement and enthusiasm generated by this. There were representatives, community representatives there yesterday just to give feedback in a very informal way. Some folks from OCU and Metro Tech and OCCC and the Health Sciences Center, just to kind of give the students some ideas of things they ought to be thinking about. I think it's a project well worthy of. Again, we're looking at it with the mayor's invitation to them in an unofficial way, but it's going to give us some beginning look at what kind of health and wellness centers are we talking about in this MAPS 3. And the benefit of students, again, looking across the country at the best practices. And I just sense some adrenaline and enthusiasm, like yesterday, as I saw at the first meeting with the folks on the trolley. I think we're going to begin to see some excitement and enthusiasm with the project that we've really talked little about and have little idea where we're going with it. So I'm excited about it.
All right. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to thank the folks in Meridian Hills for inviting my wife and I to their neighborhood meeting this past week. And I'd like to praise the Sheriff's Department. They had a representative out there, Kelly, who came out and put on an excellent program dealing with safety and dealing with what you and I should do with our mail, what we should not do with our mail in the area of privacy. And it was very, very informative. And then also I'd like to congratulate River Park and share what can happen when people get involved. River Park is a very challenged neighborhood, and under President Gina Daniel, they have made outstanding progress, have involved citizens, have involved business. And this past week, they were announced that they had won an award, a statewide award Gina Daniel had for her leadership. And that award carried a $1,000 stipend to go to a charity of Gina's choosing. She chose Neighborhood Alliance, who in turn is passing that $1,000 back to the neighborhood in terms of a grant to fund reconstruction work this summer when a group of Catholic youth from around the country come in for a repeat visit to upgrade and fix people's houses in the area which are dilapidated and need attention. So it's just amazing what a citizen and a group can do by putting their shoulder to the wheel and moving forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. Pete?
Your Honor, this has been a really good day, I think. We're so fortunate here in Oklahoma City to have a young man like Gerald McCoy to honor today. I think that's when he was here and that drum group played, what struck me is the young people in that young group looked like Oklahoma City. As a graduate of Southeast, obviously I've always thought that Southeast looked like Oklahoma City, but I was struck by the diversity in that group, how they really do show the face of the inner city, and what a quality opportunity that the kind of education that's been provided there has given people. It's a little different model than I-89 uses district-wide, and it's been very successful, I think. And to make it a really great day, I believe it's my last day as a vice mayor.
Brian?
Well, actually, I'd like to continue the line of thought that Pete had. One of the things I regretted not saying earlier that dawned on me was in the last year we had a Heisman Trophy winner. We had Blake Griffin here, Gerald McCoy, and these guys are a perfect example of it taking 20 years to be an overnight success. You know, I think the younger generations look for easy way out, quick fixes, the way to get somewhere without working for it. And those three gentlemen have spent 20 years of getting up way before everybody else, staying way after everybody else leaves, you know, just making a huge sacrifice to get to the point that they are. And I think that that's a great example, seeing them come from Oklahoma City and being a great example for younger people and older people as well, that it just takes a lot of sacrifice to be successful. And so I wish I would have came up when he was here, but the other thing I noticed was how proud his dad was. I think he was more excited than his son was to be here. But it's just wonderful to see that kind of work ethic and investment pay off for somebody, and for them to have that kind of future ahead of them. So,
let me add one thing to that. His dad graduated from Southeast, or attended, but had an unfortunate thing happen in his life, and they had to end up graduating at Northeast. But he's a Southeast guy until he was a junior, I believe, in high school.
All right, Meg?
And I have to sit between them. What are we going to do? Just a couple of quick things. I'd really like to thank the Gatewood Neighborhood Association for inviting me to their annual meeting. And I'd particularly like to recognize Janet Seafelt, who has done so much for that wonderful neighborhood and also serves as the Ward 6 Parks Commissioner. And she really has gone above and beyond so many times, and the results are well proven. Red Earth Museum has moved its location from Science Museum, Oklahoma, to Santa Fe Plaza, right next door to the Skirvin Hotel. And they had an opening last week. They've got fabulous art both to see and to purchase. I think it's going to be a real treat for tourists downtown. John Williams at the Skirvin has said virtually everybody that comes in to stay there from out of town wants to know where they can go see Native American artwork and where they might be able to go purchase it. And we now have a location right downtown. And city staff, Kathy O'Connor and her office were just awesome. Allison Oshel at the Chamber helped make this happen. It was a labor of love for many people, and I'm happy to report they're open. And the third thing is I had an opportunity last Thursday to visit the animal shelter with Christy Counts of the Oklahoma Humane Society. And that was a really encouraging visit. You know, the public has responded extremely well to the efforts of city staff and the partnership with the Humane Society to adopt more animals, to reduce the number of euthanasias. And I think the only a challenge that we're facing is our success. And there are more people that want to adopt more animals, and we don't have the facilities perhaps to allow the intake to happen as quickly as it needs to. So I would just encourage us to look at ways that we could work with the city staff and with the Humane Society to streamline and perhaps help them work with the private sector to improve our facilities.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Meg. Skip?
Yes. I would like to ditto on everything that, well, most of what Pete said and Brian in reference to Mr. McCoy, but coming to Northeast, you know, there was, yes, it was, but I would also like to congratulate again Douglas High School Trojans for winning the boys championship in basketball. And last week they invited me over. They were having a program just honoring the basketball team and the coaches. And so I went over, and they had just a jam-packed gymnasium with everybody out, and they were just having a grand activity of events. And all of a sudden, they asked me to come down and share some words, and I got a standing ovation. And I think it's the first. And I didn't tell them either. But the standing ovation lasted for like about a minute. And I'm thinking, gee whiz, I've never been applauded like this. But unbeknownst to me, through the side door, here comes 5 of the Thunder, and they was really clapping for the Thunder. Just busted my little balloon. But I will like to acknowledge the Thunder is probably one of the greatest ambassadors that this city has seen in a long time. And those guys were there, and they mixed with those kids just like, well, in some respect, I guess they are kids, but they were having a great time also, and they came up and took pictures with the team and the coaching staff, and then when the Thunder they brought I think 3 or 4 autographed jerseys to help the students in their fundraising activities to purchase rings for the team for the championship, and which is another thing I don't understand. The kids have to purchase the rings after they work hard and do all the right things that we ask them to do, and then they win the championship, and then they got to go out and hustle money and sell things in order to get, a recognized ring. But that's another story we'll talk about later on. But so the Thunder were leaving, and all of a sudden these children are just going crazy over on the other side. And 3 of the Thunder, Durant, and I think Green and Hart, and there they are up in the stands with the kids. So it just really made the day for Douglas High School, and to the staff, the coach at Douglas and his coaching staff and the principal, they're doing a great job. And so for Northeast Oklahoma City, Pete, we on the map too.
Pat?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a great day in Ward 8. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, we'll break ground for the new Northwest Library on 122nd, just west of MacArthur. It'll be the only library in Ward 8. It's a project that was initially approved in the 2000 bond issue, and so our citizens out there have waited, not always patiently, but this afternoon will begin the fulfillment of their expectations to the library. Secondly, I thank my colleagues for their support of my resolution. It's heartwarming to have 8-1, 7-1 votes. It indicates I'm doing something. Okay. And the third thing is I'd like to offer my congratulations to both our outstanding athletes that we've honored in the last year, Sam Bradford and Gerald McCoy. And my fondest hope is that someday the public school system serving Oklahoma City will raise to a level of excellence that our athletes can be proud of.
All right, yeah.
Mayor, I apologize. I had one question for the city manager. The upcoming Arts Festival made me think about prior to last year's festival, we shut down the south sidewalk at Sheridan Walker Parking Garage for glass falling out or something. It is still closed down a year later. Could I get a report on why we haven't fixed that and opened the sidewalk back up?
Well, we're in the process of fixing it, but we'll get your report as the status of it when we'll be back opened up.
Okay. Larry?
Sorry, Mayor, but I'd like to also mention last week, Variety Healthcare on Northwest 10th Street opened their facility to provide health care services to those who do not have insurance. It was a great ribbon cutting, and the folks in the area need to avail themselves of the services offered by Variety Healthcare. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, on to city manager reports, and now we have the presentation from Russell Klaus.
We do indeed.
Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Good morning, Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm going to continue the good news today with the Neighbourhood Stabilisation Program. We are doing extremely well in this program. And first I want to recognise, and the reason we're doing well is because we have a lot of people who are working together, a lot of partners who are all pulling together to make this a successful program. And we have several of those people here today. We have Roland Chupak and David Ash in the back there with Neighbourhood Housing Services. They are proving to be an excellent frontline partner on the single-family element of this program. And Dan Strawn is over here as well, representing the Homeless Alliance and the Westtown campus. And that is progressing extremely well as also, and I'm going to go into that in a minute as well. The Homeless Alliance have also been assisted with United Way in enabling that facility to be able to progress out there. And we've had a lot of support also from the Department of Commerce, from Vaughan Clark and his staff, and Tiana Douglas, who is on a temporary contract with them much longer than she'd anticipated. But Tiana has been a significant greaser of the wheels, so to speak, in enabling the state to operate in support of the program. And last but not least, I wanted to recognise staff. Wiley and his group put a lot of time into this, and none more so than Matt Gabelson, who's operating the PowerPoint today. But Matt has taken this program by the horns and has really shaped it into a phenomenally effective and successful program. And he needs a lot of deserves a lot of recognition for that. He spent a lot of time, a lot of his own time on this at night and on weekends, and he's really enabled us to look very, very good in the eyes of Housing and Urban Development and the state and everybody else who's familiar with this program. So with that, just a recap on what this program was about. It was enacted prior to the ARROW program that Mike Randall briefed you on last week. It became effective in 2008. It is targeted towards addressing the foreclosure crisis and therefore targets vacant and foreclosed properties. We have elected our objectives with the program, at least locally, to revitalise neighbourhoods. We've been working on this for a long period of time, but this is a massive infusion of funds in a very short period of time and is having a significant impact in a couple of areas that I'll illustrate on a map here in a little bit. It's putting a number of properties back into viable use. These are properties that were either vacated through foreclosure or have been vacant for some period of time. It's also helping to mitigate the downturn in the economy for contractors. People aren't building as many houses or commercial properties at this point in time. And through neighbourhood housing services and what's going to happen out at the Westtown campus, we're able to keep a lot more people employed, both in the design profession and particularly in the local contractors. We also increasing home ownership opportunities, and I think one of the lasting legacies of this program is really going to be the Westtown campus. We've struggled for a long period of time to be able to come up with permanent solutions to address our homeless issues, and as we establish the Westtown campus, that's going to go a long way towards addressing that problem. The funding that we received, just to recap on that, we received a direct formula-driven entitlement of just under $3 million. We then received an additional $5.8 million from the state as on a proportional allocation from their $29 million allocation, and then they reserved 20% of their allocation for a competitive program. We applied for the whole amount. We got $3.9 million of that, and that gave us a total of just under $12.6 million, which we have to have committed by September of this year. That means we have to have it under contract by September of this year. It's an 18-month program. It began March last year, and therefore we have 4 years to actually expend all the funds. So that is, completion of the program, at least that first round, is going to be by March 20, 2013. We expect these funds to recycle as well. These funds will stay in the community. As long as we spend them by that date, they will stay in the community. We have committed almost two-thirds of the funds so far, so we are well on track to meeting the September 20th deadline. We have another $4.5 million that we have left to commit, but we're very confident that all of those funds will be committed by the September 20th deadline. We have two focuses. One is the single-family acquisition and rehab. We have just under $7 million dedicated in that area, and then for the public facility, which is the Westtown campus, $2.5 million. And you may remember that cold day in January where we broke down part of the wall out at the Westtown campus. Several of the council members were at that groundbreaking. And then we recently allocated $2 million to the construction of a day shelter out there, which will be the south building on the campus. So we're able to actually complete in a very short period of time what had been a long time coming in terms of what the Homeless Alliance has been striving to accomplish in their homeless objectives. In the single-family program, this is a kind of a hit-and-miss program, and it's largely supply-driven. So we've had 187 properties that we have evaluated so far. We've made offers on 86. 53 of those offers were accepted. We've closed on 50 properties now, and we have another 3 that are scheduled to close. We anticipate acquiring approximately 65 properties by the time we are finished with the single-family program, and we expect to have that completed by July the 1st. So we're about 80% of the way through this particular program. This is a map that illustrates where these properties have been acquired. You can see that one of our original intents was to try and concentrate our resources so we can maximise the impact. And while it has been supply-driven, I think we've been reasonably successful in terms of having that impact. So you can see up in the northwest up there in Classen 10 Penn and north of 23rd Street, there's a relatively solid concentration there. Going south between 29th Street and I-240, a significant concentration of houses we've been able to acquire there. We spend a lot of time, and we have for 30 years now been using federal funds to try and recover these neighbourhoods, and the foreclosure crisis was threatening that progress. So this is the NSP funds are really enabling us to forestall that problem. Then you go over the Oak Cliff neighbourhood over there in the southwest. We have 7 homes over there. In the northeast, we have 5 homes up there, and I think that's a reflection of the actual stability of the neighbourhood. There just haven't been a lot of foreclosures that have been available for us to look at in that particular part of town. These are photos of some of the houses that have been captured by the program. You can see there's some fairly nice homes here. It would have been a shame if these homes had been allowed to sit vacant and deteriorate. So I think we're making a significant contribution through the return of properties like this to the market. Next steps with single family is to finish the acquisition, as I said, by July the 1st. We have about five properties that are scheduled for demolition. We have to have all of the rehab work. It's another requirement of the program. We have to have all that contracted by August the 31st. We have about 20 contracts pending on that, and that's what Neighbourhood Housing Services are helping us with. The West Town facilities are rendering by TAP, who are the architects on this facility. They are, next slide. They are going to award a contract here, I think, on April the 1st. And then construction will begin in June, with construction anticipated to be completed by the end of this year. So we're already going to see significant progress out there. The day shelter has only recently received those funds, but we're moving very aggressively on that as well. So the plans and specs will be done in July, contract award in September. They'll start construction in November, so you'll have construction going on in both buildings synchronized at that point in time from November to December, and then they will complete construction in March of next year. So that's a brief update on where the program is at. As I said, we're on track to meet our requirements. We receive proportionally, I think, significantly more funds than any other municipality in the state, and our program has been used as a model by Department of Commerce and by these other communities. But I think as the progenitors of that program, are the best executors of the program. And I think we need to be very proud of all of the partners in this effort. And I'll be happy to answer questions, and I'm sure Dan Strawn and Roland or David will be happy to answer questions as well about their particular roles in the process.
All right. Questions?
Your Honor, yes, sir. Of the 50 properties you've acquired, Russell, are any of those, have the rehabilitation been completed on any of those properties?
No, they have not yet.
And when they are completed, is it your intent to put them back on the market to sell them?
That is correct.
And will that money come back to the city
That
then?
will come back into the program.
Into the program. And, but it will, if I understand the program right, it will not be under the same time constraints as the monies that we originally received. We'll have more time than the deadlines.
That is correct.
Definitely. And so we'll continue to recycle this money through the program.
Yes. So it's a very significant contribution.
So it may go on forever or
yes,
for a long time anyway.
Essentially.
Okay, thank you.
Skip, then Meg.
On the blighted properties, you said there's 5?
There's five properties that are slated for demolition.
Scheduled to be demolished. Is that right?
Correct.
And so with the $4 million that's remaining, will that be available to construct new housing on those properties?
Yes, there is money there available for new construction.
Okay. So will we contract with, is this like a participation with Habitat for Humanity if they wanted to participate to build on those properties?
Yes, Habitat is one of our other partners, and they have been helping us with the the deep income requirements of the program. We are required to dedicate 25% of the funds to families who are earning 50% of median income. So Habitat has taken on that charge, and they're the ones who are negotiating with NHS right now on most of those pending rehab contracts I talked about. I'm not sure whether they will be building any of the new homes. I'm not. Roland might be able to answer that, but some of those may be built by Habitat. They may be built by Neighbourhood Housing Services.
Because my concern is that, and I've talked to your staff, and Wiley and Matt has been very, very helpful in reference to some of the development. If some of the organizations that I feel like that has a strong background to make sure that the projects are completed and really create a development in the area that gives people some ownership and some responsibility in the homes and also in the community. Is it possible that the remaining $4 million that's from this project, is there a way to partnership with Habitat for Humanity to create a developed area?
You mean a single area, like several homes in the one area?
Right.
Probably not within the time frame that we have left available. We've got another approximately 12 homes to acquire. We have to acquire those according to what the supply is of foreclosed or vacant properties. Staff go out and look at those with NHS every Thursday, basically to see what's out there. I think it's a very admirable objective. It may be difficult to accomplish within the time frame.
But it could be.
It could be.
Yeah. And the foreclosure status of some of these properties, is the length of time that some of these properties have been in foreclosure, is there a cutoff period as to when they went into foreclosure, or how long they've been in the foreclosure, or is it just the fact that they are in foreclosure?
Just the fact that they're in foreclosure.
So some of these properties could have been sitting in some bank's portfolio for like 2 years?
Correct. Some of them could have been here for significantly longer than that. When Bob Daly's group, as part of Wiley's division as well, and Bob, I've neglected to mention Bob Daly's group, but they've done a phenomenal job of going out and doing those 180-odd inspections, and they write up the specs for the rehab as well. So they've gone above and beyond. But sorry, I forgot the question.
Well,
got off track.
One of the concerns that I have, and I've discussed this with some of the other councilmen, is that as we go forward to try to see if we can develop a master plan towards actual development and home ownership as it relates to some of the particular areas, because there are some areas that has been strangled more than others and have suffered more than others. And I think if, the best use in some respect is to show something that has completely developed or redeveloped in a particular area, other than just one or two spots in a particular neighborhood. And so that's why, I have so much praise for what Habitat for Humanity has created, like the Hopes Crossing development. And I think for the next 20 years, you're going to see, nothing but growth in that area as a result of the vision that they had to create a developed area or redeveloped a area in some areas where you actually bring, people in and they change the whole landscape of the community.
I'd agree with that completely. One of the other things that may be coming down the pike, I know that the federal administration are looking at a possible third round of NSP, so hopefully we'll be eligible for that. One of our goals with the successful implementation of NSP 1 and 2 is to put ourselves in a position where we would be looked upon favorably for a third allocation.
And I also don't want to leave out the Shoto programs and the other neighborhood program that's been very acting towards these projects.
Okay, Meg?
Mine really was just a quick comment about the scope of the project. If my recollection is correct, when this first came into being, we thought we might be able to affect somewhere between 9 and 15 properties. And I think with additional dollars...
I think I might have mentioned 40, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just delighted to see that we've been able to accomplish this much. And to Skip's point, I really do appreciate the fact that I know you have all worked hard to try to concentrate the resources to the best of your ability, and the inventory. And I know we're somewhat market-driven by that, but it's reassuring to see that we have tried to pinpoint those dollars into areas where we could have the biggest impact. And Matt, thank you very much for all you've done.
And we're hitting a fairly pivotal part of the program here, for the state at least, and it's possible that additional funds that aren't being expended elsewhere may be reallocated to us, so we're hopeful that may happen as well, so we might even get additional funds.
Could I switch gears for one quick second, too, and ask a little bit about West Town? Dan, are you still back there? I can't see you. How are we coming on relationships for the Resource Center and
relationships with providers,
with providers,
service providers? Well, we have a resource committee that's working on that and starting to develop the memoranda of understanding, especially with the government agencies to provide services there. Some of the ones we've been talking to are Social Security and DHS. Team, of course, has already signed an MOU to provide employment placement and training services there. North Care and Red Rock working on mental health services and substance abuse services, respectively. Those are the ones we've been working with the most closely.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Pete, Larry, then Sam.
I had a question about the coordination between where these houses are being rehabilitated and code enforcement. I mean, we have obviously a pretty substantial investment now in some of those neighborhoods. I know one in particular in my area that there's been a substantial investment in, which I'm very pleased about. But my concern is that if we don't have a real serious code enforcement process that goes along with that, those houses are being put in areas that are going to continue to deteriorate, and we're going to lose our money. Not all of it, but it'll reduce the amount of money we have to reinvest, even in the same neighborhoods. And so I just would like to be sure that there's some kind of coordination. Oak Cliff is the one that comes to mind because we've done quite a bit there, and that's a fertile market for it. I suspect there are lots of houses there in foreclosure, and a lot of them are fairly nice. Well, not fairly nice; they're very nice houses. They just, for whatever reason, that whole square mile turned into rental property, but without a strong code enforcement backup for our investment, I'm afraid we may lose there. Is that are you coordinating with code enforcement in the neighborhoods where you're doing this?
We have not sort of formalized any proactive code enforcement program.
It just seems like a protect your asset kind of.
I agree completely. Yeah. A very legitimate concern.
Okay,
I'll talk to Bob.
Larry?
Hey, Russell, I'm going to change gears a little bit here. I was pumping iron. I'm trying to grow up to be big like Gerald McCoy. And while I was pumping iron the other day at the Pacer, a friend that Sam knows and some of the other folks here would recognize hit me up and can the neighborhood stabilization program take a piece of property, renovate it, and then put it on the rental market, or must it go back into the purchase book? Because this gentleman's thesis was that we need quality rental housing for people who should not be owning a house but need a quality place. Just a comment.
I think there's more than enough demand for both. We have elected to focus our efforts on the ownership side of things. Rental is an option, but that's a little more complicated in terms of being able to keep the funds here in the city. So we've elected to go for the ownership as the surest way to be able to keep the funds here.
All right, Sam.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Kelly mentioned a couple of not-for-profit housing efforts in Oklahoma City. But, you know, we have here today representatives from Neighborhood Housing Services. And, Russell, I don't think we'd have the capacity in this city to do what we're doing without these folks' presence, and to attract the additional $4+ million because of the efforts. You know, just sitting here this morning and listening when times are so difficult economically for the city and everyone else, to hear the range of involvements this city has with the nonprofit community. Gary mentioned the Downtown Arts Festival, and Paseo Arts Festival is here today. Homeless Alliance is here along with Neighborhood Housing Services. Skip mentioned the YMCA and the United Way coming forward this summer to help us with some of our swimming shortfalls. Just the enormity of connections that our city has with the nonprofit community is something we really need to tout and tout more of, and I think sometime it'd be opportune to hear just the range of partnerships and opportunities that this city engages in to extend itself, where in a program like this, we just don't have the capacity we couldn't do. So for me, it's a good morning to hear so much of the partnership that we have as a city, and all ought to be proud of.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Any other comments
Your
from
Honor,
Russell? Yeah, Pat.
I've been biting my tongue not to say this, so I'm going to say it anyway. In our euphoria about the success of this program, I don't think we need to lose sight of the importance of not only treating the symptoms, but treating the disease. And I think we need to give some thought for a long-range, proactive plan to address the problem of why these neighborhoods are in this condition right now. Certainly replacing housing that is deteriorated is an important part of the overall effort. But are there things that the city can do or should do to try to revitalize those neighborhoods to the point where private money comes back in? People want to live there, and people will, if they want to live there, will have a response from the private development community, the private building community to answer that need. And I think as we go forward, taking these kind of valuable programs into consideration, we need to keep our focus on the long-range solution to the disease that are causing these neighborhoods to decline.
All right, thanks. Anything else for Russell?
There is a one-word answer to that question, Pat, and it is schools. In South Oklahoma City, it is schools. The comment you made earlier about having schools that the athletes can be proud of the academics, especially in I-89, is absolutely what the cause of it is. And I know in South Oklahoma City that's the case. That's the case in this neighborhood that I mentioned just a moment ago. It's schools. It's what it is. It's not anything else. It's schools.
Russell, thank you.
Thank you. City
manager reports continue.
Just want to highlight the March sales tax and use tax report. It's an interesting month. If you take a look at it, the sales tax was the sales tax was 6.31% below last year. The use tax was actually above last year by about 9%. It's a net of being down about $700,000, and that's being down $700,000 at this point in the fiscal year is actually good news compared to what we've had. But the fact of the matter is, if you take a look at it, it's really interesting to me that for the year, the sales tax is down 10.41% and use tax is down 10.40%. And if you add those two numbers together, we're down about $18 million, or I guess it's almost $18 million. And that's our budget issues we have going forward, and we still don't have sales tax collections coming in equaling to last year. Now, it's getting better, but it's still not there. And that leads to the gap we've got going into next fiscal year, is that continued downtrend. And so, it's not as bad as it's been in previous months. There's a little bit of an upward tick, but it's still not a very positive situation as we're going forward. So that's the dire news. If you want to feel a little bit better about our situation, you can take a look at the graph that's on the front page of the report. And although things are not good here, it's better than it is in Tulsa. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions on the city manager reports?
Is the difference between what we've experienced in Oklahoma City compared to what they've experienced in Tulsa so far a matter of what our reserves were going in?
No, this is only sales tax collections that's on this report. And quite frankly, if you look at it, it's interesting how closely we actually tracked with Tulsa until the last 2 months, where we've got a little bit uptick. But this has nothing to do with about reserves or fiscal policy.
No.
This is just net sales tax dollars.
No, I understand, but is the fact lack of reserves? I mean, they have tracked pretty closely.
Yes.
The loss each month is tracked relatively close.
Why they were in more dire straits this year?
It would seem to me there has to be an explanation for that, and the only one I can come to is lack of a reserve going into the.
That, and they had some settlements on some labor contracts that came in detrimental to them at the end of last fiscal year, that they had to carry forward. And I think it's a combination of those two things.
All right, citizens to be heard? All right, we have executive session. We'll be back.